TV10. Gano Mazima.
Okay, this is TV10 Gano Mazima, TMC Media Group. Welcome again. This is an investigative piece we are running here at TV10 Gano Mazima. This is Katumba Gerardi. As you are aware, we have been running the investigative piece about the Uganda Industrial Research Institute, Uiri, as you have been following it. Mostly we are looking at the executive director, Professor Charles Kwesiga, mismanaging the government's money, corruption and misuse of office. One of the whistleblower of the mismanagement of Uiri, or Uganda Industrial Research Institute, was Mr. Zefa Tugumisirize. He is the head procurement and disposable unit at Uiri. He was one of the whistleblowers. You have been following his programs here, and actually today he came to our office. He ran to our office because he came out and exposed the mismanagement of Uiri. He was suspended. This is the letter I have here, is the notice of suspension from employment. It is dated the 24th April 2024, which means he was suspended yesterday, because today is 25th, and I was suspended. It is an immediate suspension of 30 days as the investigations against him is going on. Here he is. He's going to tell us what happened and why it happened like that. So welcome, Mr. Zefa, again to TV10 Gano Mazima. You are whistleblower of the mismanagement in Uganda Industrial Research Institute.
Yes.
Because you work from there.
Yep.
And we are investigating about the executive director, let's say your boss, and you boldly came out and you expose the mismanagement within the government's organ. Now here I see you were suspended for 30 days, and it is an immediate suspension. What are the core issues that led to your suspension?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As you mentioned, my name's Tugumisirize Zefa. I have been, and I am a whistleblower of high level of mismanagement of government resources in Uganda Industrial Research Institute. Mr. Moderator, it takes some strength for someone to be a patriot. And we respect old age. My accounting officer is 78 years right now. In other words, he's 2 years older than my grandmom, my grandfather. I get shocked to see someone who has grandchildren and grandsons behaving the way my accounting officer, Professor Kwesiga, is behaving. As a professional in procurement who has served for more than 20 years, I would advise this is the time for him to retire if he is not to be humiliated by grandsons and children. I came out to whistleblow through the advice of IGG of how I should manage it. And first of all, they printed me a copy of a whistleblower act and advised me to to do the following. Number one, to immediately report to State House Anti-Corruption Court unit, because according to IGG, they claimed the State House Anti-Corruption unit is more facilitated than the IGG. And that means my issues will be heard very fast, which I did in 2003. Whistleblowing issues of level of mismanagement and corruption in Uiri.
So you came out in 2003?
I came out in 2003.
Wow.
And later on, in writing, and later on, I was forced to come to air in here, such that every Ugandan, I was whistleblowing to Ugandans who are taxpayers, whistleblowing to the head of state, President Yoweri Museveni, and whistleblowing to my fellow professional procurement managers by setting a precedent that any procurement officer or manager that is facing the challenges of corruption, intimidation in his entity, then they should come out very boldly, very strongly, to put their case across, so that the Ugandans can understand the level of corruption in this country. Mr. Moderator, this is a country where there is high level of syndicate corruption mechanism that has been entrenched by the accounting officers. And I want to mention this categorical. At the age of my accounting officer, 78, whatever he's doing right now, which you already know, of bribing lawyers when they open cases against him, using government money, intimidating people, and using government agencies to intimidate, using government resources, is not going to be sustainable anymore. I mentioned it is not going to be sustainable anymore. The problem Professor Kwesiga right now has, there are two problems. Number one, time and nature. With time, every time the clock is ticking and he's getting more older. Number two is that naturally you will get out of the public office. Kindly, we need sanity in Uiri.
How long have you been in Uiri as a head procurement?
I've been in Uiri for 3 years. It is actually coming to 3 years. By July, I will be making 3 years. But believe me, when you see the level of mismanagement, the level of intimidation, the level of luxuriant life, I am an NLM cadre. I cannot fail to mention this in public. And I am determined, more than determined, to make sure I expose the level of corruption in Uiri. For example, I've been given this suspension because my video went viral in public. You are suspending me because I went public to mention that you are corrupt and indicating areas where you are corrupt. The person who has signed this letter is the Deputy Executive Director. The issues that we are raising are concerning with Professor Kwesiga. If he's dodging to sign this, or he has dodged to sign this suspension letter, because issues pertain, they are all concerning whatever he has done, then we need to know whether he's dodging it. I want to mention briefly, and you have mentioned, you asked me, what are some of the issues that have led to my suspension?
Yes, just briefly, before you go to that, is your whistleblowing is it focused on Uiri as Uganda's Industrial Research Institute or an individual, Dr. Professor Kwesiga?
It is based on an individual because he's the one who influences the whole procurement process.
Oh.
He's the one who allows things to be done the way they are being done without procurement procedures. And therefore, he's the number one person I should look at. The issues that have led to my suspension, and Mr. Moderator, it is only not a suspension because I'm told in administratively a suspension should come after the disciplinary committee has pronounced itself on issues or grave mistakes or misconduct. This suspension is coming without the disciplinary committee investigating, and they have given me 30 days. Now, if they have given me 30 days without the disciplinary committee investigations, then why should I go for a disciplinary, why should I go for suspension? And if they are investigating after my suspension, then what are they investigating? So in other words, they are on, I am told, they have already come up with a lot of false allegations. They are forging a lot of statements to justify my suspension and later alone my expulsion, my termination. And who knows, my termination letter could also have been signed and is in a file waiting for me to serve the 30 days of suspension. And after the suspension, they issue a termination letter. This is very unfortunate that this is the country where a whistleblower comes up to whistleblow issues of corruption. Then you are victimized, you are the culprit other than the corrupt person.
Did you get to know the reasons why they suspended you? Some of the reasons.
I have no reasons. I have not been given any reasons why I have been suspended.
Because when I look at this suspension letter, there is what we call, they said, this is to allow for investigations into matters relating to breach of confidentiality.
Now, if they are still investigating, why should they suspend me? If, for instance, somebody who is being investigated, the accounting officer, he was caught red-handed with some government equipments in his premises, worth 2.5. That is the evasion of property. He has not been suspended, he's still using government money to bribe people. If the accounting officer has bought materials, prime materials, and they were found worth 46 million, they have been found in his home outside the procurement, has not been suspended. If he is able to use government money to go outside and pledge, make pledges everywhere, in the churches, roofings, materials that he bought, he is not suspended. If there has been procurement of meat equipment which were diverted to his home area, where it is not a gazetted center of excellence of the government, and he is not suspended. If he is able to buy CCTV cameras for entire school and he donates them in his names using government money, he is not suspended. If he bought meat equipment for Nakawa using the director, Joanita Alishaba, and Raymond Nwenye Siga at exorbitant inflated prices for a non-existent, because this is their supplier, around 750 million. They are not suspended and they are still working. If there is establishment of meat factory, around 900 million was given to a single supplier who is a friend to professor, has not been suspended. Professor is still in office using government money. If the milling machines at his farm in Fort Potro, which were diverted and stolen and taken there, have not been, he has not moved out of the office. If he's using vehicles, government vehicles, at his home, he has more than six vehicles he uses. And mind you, the drivers of all these vehicles cannot provide accountability for the fuel used. They adamantly refused it because they were instructed by the accounting officer never to account for the fuel used. He's still in office serving. If professor is using government resources money withdrawn from accounts, by the way, the accountant today is in a very big problem. There is no accountability for the money he uses. If in terms of fuel management, his drivers cannot account, and the manager of transport is in shit as I speak because he cannot account for the fuel you can year in, year out. He's still in the office. How dare you sign a document, a letter suspending Zephyr because he has whistleblowed? It is this honor here that I stand out to challenge this suspension. I have whistleblowed to different government agencies. I have come out broadly. I have made statements to State House Anti-Corruption against the corruption, and thereafter I need protection from the government. I challenge this suspension. Actually, professor should, for misconduct, mismanagement of government resources, for diversion of property, he should be the first person to be suspended. President Museveni, the president of this country, get interested in all these issues I have identified here. They are all factual. They are all true. We have evidence of high level of mismanagement of government resources, taxpayers' money in Uiri.
What we are talking about in this issue is the high level of mismanagement, high level of corruption, high level of abuse of office in government agencies. Specifically, we are talking about Uganda Industrial Research Institute, pointing on the executive director, Professor Charles Kwesiga. Whistleblowing actually is allowed. There is a Whistleblowers Act that protects and guides whistleblowers in different agencies in the country. Are you the only staff that has been suspended in Uiri?
Very well. Mr. Moderator, I am not the only person who has been suspended. I want to mention my predecessor who was suspended because he advised the accounting officer. And the guy is miserable. He was sent, he has a family. He is down in the village digging. I want to mention a list of those so far I have known since 3 years, and those that he has failed to renew because he fires and hires. He has nobody to report to. He's the board. He's the king. He's everything. Number one, the recent suspension was for the Mr. Alex Ndabeitu. Alex Ndabeitu. This was a human resource manager who was brought from London, very robust in management, very powerful. And we thought we had gotten a savior in terms of management. This is a guy who was fired within 2 days and is frustrated. Mr. Moderator, we have some guy called Mugisha Bosco, John Bosco. This was the finance director. He was frustrated to the extent that he had no choice, he ran away. We have Mr. Abbas Amanya, he was an accountant. He was threatened, forced to sign some document, money which was going to the accounting officer. When he refused, he was fired. We have somebody who was very technical enough in the oil essentials, Katuramu Albert. This guy was fired and given days to leave the organization. We have a lady called Julian Mwesigwa. He was an HR and an administrator. When you're up to the game in terms of policies, procedures, and how things should be done in a right manner, you cannot stay with this professor. We have the director. This director I found when he had already gone. Emma Tumwine, who was in charge of production systems. He was fired, given a ultimatum of 2 days. He left. Agaba Matthew, he left. Sam Mukakanya, who was in Bekale, he left the company. And given deadlines, please leave, because I can fire and hire. Mr. Moderator, when you look at the and others who are denied contracts and they leave because they have been denied contracts, renewal of contracts. These are Ugandans, technical Ugandans. Their families, members are suffering. When you apply the multiplier effect model, each of these families, all of these members has more than 10 dependents. Yes. Professor is killing the young generations by making them suffer, sending them away, and there is no justification. Only when you have misunderstandings with him in issues of policies, procedures, how things are done, then you are the problem in an organization. I want to mention this. Recently, I was pushing for 140 million to be used by him. And he threatened the accounts department. I'm shocked. Running up and down accounting, your accounting officer, you are threatening an accountant and say, if you don't approve that money and it is paid to me, then your department will be disbanded. You can imagine such a statement. So in other words, this is a guy who has caused havoc in an organization. When you come to Uiri and you see the buildings, because these are grant that was acquired, was given to Uganda through a Chinese in Namave. So we will move you around to show you what he has done. My dear professor, you should know that you were playing a stewardship role in the construction of Namave through a grant that was given by the Chinese government to Ugandan government. It is not Professor Charles's money. And the equipments that were procured, they are the very equipments that are there. No value addition at all, other than those equipment that were acquired. So for that matter, I request, number one, lifestyle audit, because this is the most extravagant accounting officer I have ever seen in the world. Contracts are awarded in Fairway Hotel. Renewal, if you are not with him in Fairway Hotel, or you can be able to do what he does, then you will never have peace with Professor Kwesiga, and your renewal of contract will never be achieved. Ugandans are suffering.
I understand Uiri is a government organ.
Yep.
One of the principles that governs government organs is board of directors. Does Uiri have a board of directors?
For more than, I think, 10 years, Uiri has never had the board of directors.
Sure.
And he's the board, he's the final person.
He's everything.
He's everything. Mind you, some of these things, to be at this level, to report at this level, it is because of frustration. And as I mentioned, I want to set a precedent. I want to be a sacrificer professionally. And every procurement person, whoever you are and you're suffering, please come up to whistleblow to make sure you change this country.
Can we say that Uiri is one of the agencies that has high level of suspensions and terminations without genuine reasons when you look at government's organs?
I believe so. This suspension they are talking about and the coming termination letter, which is I think is already written, is based because I expect the disciplinary committee to sit and suspend me. So in this case, who has suspended me? So in other words, whatever they are doing is they are no longer doing it.
What is the right procedure to follow when you are suspending someone, let's say in Uiri? What would be the right?
The right procedure is one, if someone is there's a misconduct or any criminal act, then we have a disciplinary committee.
You have one in Uiri?
We have a disciplinary committee.
Where are you called?
I was not called in any of the disciplinary committee. There should be a disciplinary committee which investigates.
Yeah.
After investigations, interrogates, yeah. And then
they make a decision.
They make a decision and suspend you. And after that suspension, you have served that suspension, then you come as a changed person. I have been suspended, and right now I have the letter. I don't know why I have been suspended. I don't know that talking about the misconduct. I don't know what kind of that misconduct is. If that misconduct issue is highlighted in a policy, I am a whistleblower who whistleblowed to the government agencies, which are anti-corruption agencies. I came out publicly to whistleblow before this very letter. So in other words, the law is supreme over the organization policy. Professor Kwesida must style up the way he's managing the organization. He's managing it as a private individual-owned property.
The IGG and State House Anti-Corruption Unit and other agencies, this goes direct into your office. What we are talking about just right now. Sometimes you don't give time to internalize on the issues whistleblowers come out with, but they can ably help you to fight against mismanagement and corruption in this country. You said you're a whistleblower.
Yep.
Did you report to any agencies?
Oh yes.
Concerned about fighting against corruption?
From IGG. I reported to State House Anti-Corruption. I have a copy. They acknowledge the receipt. I came out to the public.
So the IGG is aware. The office of the IGG is aware what is going on in Uiri.
They are aware. There are even more investigations that are going on. But for your information, the people who were called to make statements against the professor have been victimized on the fact that State House Anti-Corruption Court shared documents of statements of individuals to professor, because this is what he's bragging about. says everybody who went to State House anti-corruption to make a statement against me, you have a problem. You will see who is at the accounting office of Uiri. In other words, because this is this, yes, these are supposed to be confidential, yes, but this is the information we are getting from people who are victimizing us. Okay, they are victimizing us. I have been victimized. I cannot go to my office. My rights to IFMIS, the information management system from finance, that I use ahead of department to monitor procurements, the rights have been given. The professor has already given the rights to my subordinate. The issues of reports, they are given to my subordinate. So in other words, that is victimization. I have been victimized because I came out broadly to talk about issues of corruption in Uiri. I want to mention, gentlemen, that much as in that document they are saying they are going to investigate, I already have information that they are coming up with forging documents against Zephyr. Okay? And I want to mention this very categorical, that this document was signed by Deputy Executive Director, Dr. Dick Kamugasha. I don't have any problem with Dr. Dick Kamugasha. We sit down and discuss issues of management. You will never sit down with Professor Kwesiga for even a minute. I want to mention that because I am even very, very told that because Dr. Kamugasha also went to IGG, to anti-corruption, State House anti-corruption, he made also a statement. Professor Kwesiga went to IGG and mentioned that Dr. Dick Kamugasha was fraudulently involved in the procurement of a generator in Namave. In other words, trying to put him also in a corruption loop. We have information in regard to this. I am wondering why this letter has been signed by Deputy Director, not the person who is the accounting officer, whom we know he has messed up the whole thing. In terms of management, I have never seen the accounting officer in my life. 20 plus years I've worked with different organizations.
Do you talk to Professor Charles Kwesiga?
You don't have a right to talk. He talks and you listen. That is the problem. If you are a manager, have been lecturing management, procurement, public procurement, management, strategic management in the different universities for 10 years. A manager, you have to listen. Even if somebody was an idiot or is stupid, he does not understand and is your manager, as a professor, using management techniques and skills, you can mentor and groom this very person to be a perfect person in your organization. Everybody in Uiri, according to Professor, he's an underperformer, he's stupid, he's an idiot, and those are the words he uses for your information. We want to prove to Professor Kwesiga, at your old age, that we are what we are professionally, with the experience of lecturing in different universities, working international and locally. We are not stupid. Whatever you're doing is not sustainable. We need to see you go and retire honorably. Otherwise, you'll be humiliated.
According to your explanation, it seems there are so many people, so many workers within Uiri who are going through victimization. Where did you get the guts to come out as you alone as a whistleblower?
Mr. Moderator, I can't even shed tears because of what I've seen in Uiri. Because I've been in different organizations, international and local, and in academia. I love Uganda. I'm an NLM patriot, an NLM cadre, and more times our president of this country, President Yoweri Museveni, has always voiced himself very clearly that if you are a patriot and an NLM patriot, and there is some level of impunity, corruption, stand out. I know outside there are very many professionals of procurement who are being victimized, undermined by the accounting officers. This is the precedent I'm setting in this country. These accounting officers should know that the PDU, the Procurement Disposal Unit, is an epicenter of expenditure control. Value for money engineering is done at the procurement unit. For the taxpayers to be able to get value for money for his taxes he pays, procurement must be very smart.
That's it.
If we succumb to the pressures, to the influence and maladministration of these accounting officers, this country will go nowhere. I present myself as a professional. I present myself as a cadre. I love Uganda. This is why, even if I leave Uiri today, I can go to any other organization because I'm a professional. I don't need to serve Professor Kwesiga. I want systems to work. I want harmony in an organization. I want management, robust management that I've been teaching for the 10 years, strategic management of organizations, to work in organization. An old man of 78 behaving like a child, intimidating everybody. Spending government money anyhow. You cannot account for the money. Get money from accounts, from finance, you cannot account for the money. They ask you, you ask them whether they have any contract renewal, because you are intimidating them. I will not succumb to such intimidation. I am not intimidated as a professional, and I will do my best to make sure I prove a point to Professor Kwesiga. Thank you.
Do you have or have you ever had any personal grudge or personal differences with Professor Kwesiga?
Oh, I have never. I have never had any grudge. But the management style, his management style, Mr. Moderator, I reported in Uiri, 2nd of August 2021. 14 days after, that's when I met him. Okay. But let me tell you that is the very day I was meant to resign. The perception he had on procurement, an accounting officer who does not know the role of a procurement unit. And he tells you, he's briefing you as a new entrant and a new manager. I sent away your predecessor because he was talking to the suppliers. I sent him away because he was comparing prices from different suppliers, getting prices, suppliers. He was getting quotations and also trying to negotiate for prices, negotiation to get value for money.
Well, as that is the work of the procurement unit.
And that was my work. That was
Yeah.
the work I was meant to do. To ensure value for money in organization.
Indirectly, he was positioning you.
Yes, yeah,
don't do this, don't do this.
Yes.
Yes.
And when I tried to say, Professor, then what is my role here if I cannot be able to do supplier relationship management, supplier appraisal, price comparative analysis, value for money, negotiation on behalf of the government. Then eventually, when I said, what will I be doing here? And then eventually I was next to the director, and eventually he stepped on me and said, Zephyr goes slow. When you are in this office, you don't explain. You only
Listen.
You
don't talk.
And you don't. That is when I realized that I have not even a year in Uiri because of that statement. And for the 3 years, what I've seen is that high level, he regards procurement as a clerical function. Quotations are received by end users. Their requisitions are generated by end users. They attach quotations from the three, even if it is 300 million or 10 or 1,000 or 1 billion, as long as he sees 2 quotations. And eventually, the professor signs and says, issue LPO. Moreover, some of these quotations, the 3 quotations from different 3 suppliers are generated by 1 supplier from the system. One time, I photocopied all the documents to prove to him that whatever he has been doing was not as per procedures, telling him this is a document that is printed by 1 supplier, a supplier giving 3 quotations, and he did not listen to me. That's when I knew that I was going to have a problem with this very professor who does not know the value of procurement unit and the procurement head within an organization.
As we are concluding, when I was reading through Professor's profile, I found out that he's a friend to President Museveni. Actually, he's an advisor to President Museveni. And actually, he sits on different board of directors for different organizations. Do you think the president is aware of what his friend is doing in Uiri?
This is why I've come out to prove a point. Such that President Museveni, the president of this country, to understand that not everything that glitters is gold. When he is before him, he may talk anything because he wants to prove a point that he's the best. When you go down in an organization, everyone is crying and cursing. I want to mention, consciously and from my bottom of my heart, this is a professor who is feared and not respected in an organization. He's feared everywhere, he's feared, but not what? Not respected of what he does at his age, the manipulation, the greed. Does not qualify him to be respected. Professor, we request, Uiri is a governmental institution, not an individual-owned organization. Why don't you retire instead of being humiliated? I'm ready to humiliate, to bring evidence. And I would advise you, it's high time you run away from the organization. You retired honorably. Otherwise, you will be humiliated. You have been using government money to bribe judges. This is why all these people have mentioned who have been suspended indefinitely have never had any legal redress. You've been using money to suppress every situation that is against you. But I want to mention that this is not sustainable. This is our country. We are Ugandans. We need to live in Uganda peacefully, work for Uganda, not in humiliation. People you have suspended are suffering with their children, with their dependents, and because you are getting free money, enjoying, you don't mind because the government, you think the government will continue protecting you. Time will come, will be out.
It is alleged that there is high level of diversion of government property engineered by Professor Kwesiga in Uiri. Is it true?
Some of the things I've mentioned here are elements of diversion. The Center of Excellence in Kabale, where we have equipment worth 2.8 billion. They are on his land, titled land in his name.
Not Uiri land?
Not Uiri land, not gazetted government land. His own land. His own land. Where is the government? Where are the supervisors in the government? You go and prove a point. You go and prove a point and find out. Government land, it is an individual land, individually owned. That is where he has the factory bakery equipment. That's where he have meat plant equipment worth 700 million. That's where he have crisps equipment. That's why he have all this. He's waiting to retire, and then remember that all these equipments diverted are not. There's nowhere because the files have been confiscated by him. So the files will disappear. The equipments are not coded or engraved. That this is a government. The land is owned by an individual, by him himself. When he retires tomorrow, where will you go? So the government will have lost 2.8 billion shillings. And that is the owner, but there are also very many centers. You have also reminded me that in his capacity as the executive director, he sold land and the factory, the equipment in it, for the toilet paper in Namugongo. When he sold to someone who was managing as an incubator, sold it to him, says these equipments are not anywhere engraved government, so they are in my names. He made sure that he transfers the everything into his names. He goes ahead and sells the property. At the point of title transfer, that's when they got this guy transferring government property, land and equipment
into his name.
From Charles Kwesiga's to this guy who bought from Charles Kwesiga. And you're telling me you have suspended me. You have not, the government agencies, corrupt agencies have not, corruption agents have not suspended this guy. You have not. Let me tell you, this country belongs to Ugandans, not to individuals who are greedy. Let me set this challenge. Let everyone go and investigate all this. You'll find out the facts. Professor Kwesiga does not know that procurement unit and the procurement head, it is very central, strategic central point in an organization. Whatever happens in an organization, you have information. You see what is going, how things are being done.
Yes.
Okay? Let someone go and investigate about the land in Namugongo, which was a toilet paper plant, which was sold to an individual. And when this very individual was transferring it to his names, he was arrested, and the issue is with the State House and corruption. Let them go to his home and find out whether these equipments I'm talking about are not there. Then when you come out as a Ugandan to highlight some of these, then you are victimized. Instead of victimizing, instead of the corrupt person using his syndicate corrupt systems, being suspended, sent to prison, he's a free man using government money to bribe everybody, and you are suspending Zephyr.
If you are going to meet Professor Jack's question one day, or if he calls you for a meeting, what will you tell him?
Thank you very much. The only thing, as his grandson right now, I will tell him your time is out. Kindly, humbly retire before you're humiliated. Retire, resign, let someone be appointed by the president of this country and move on. These issues have, I think, have already reached the minister in charge, Dr. Musenero, who is the Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology. We fall under that.
Yes.
Minister, Honorable Minister, I request for your time. I know you may be very busy. I request for your time to meet you. Your Excellency, the President of this country, many times you have lectured us, and I love you. I love your statements of patriotism. Kindly allow me to reach you and air out my views, such as that in the future, any profession knows that he is protected when he is sobrious. Such as that any accounting officer tomorrow who tries with his greed to mismanage government resources, he knows that at any time he will be like Professor Charles Kwesiga. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for following the very last. I know Parliament always handles such cases, such scenarios of mismanagement, corruption, and what have you. We have committees handling such cases. If a committee like a Public Accounts Committee and other committees concerning that, if they call you before the parliamentary committee, are you ready to testify against Professor Kwesiga?
Thank you very much. I have already sacrificed myself. Okay. I want to be a very good example in this country. But the challenge we have, some of these issues even don't go to Kosase, my dear. All these things I have mentioned, they have been happening, but they have never gone into Kosase because of bribery. When such issues come, he has 500 million as an accounting officer to bribe. And therefore they are beneficiaries of corruption, people who are benefiting from corruption. There are also some people who have been victimized, and the corrupt who are greed are heavily connected. There is what we call syndicate corruption networks, that when you come up, like Zephyr has come up, they will use every mechanism. Have already received the intimidation right now. Threats. No. Yes, threats. And actually right now I'm going into the police to report that anything that happens to me is because of what is happening now. They are sending me threats. Leave the old guy, he's going to retire, let him use the money for his retirement. Let him use that money for the government. Are you the government? Can you imagine? You're going to lose your life if you're not careful. I have received those intimidation statements.
You are saving the country and
someone is asking, am I the government to come up like this? So I am very ready to go to Kosase. I am very ready to go to the president to explain this. I have sacrificed myself to go to the minister. I have sacrificed myself to go to any, to set a precedent in this country. And it's going to be a precedent that professionals will hinge on. It is going to be a springboard that will take this country to another level.
Okay, thank you so much. We shall continue making a follow-up for this case and this investigation about Uganda Industry Research Institute, and we are going to look for Minister Msenero. I think she'll be able to give us her side of the story, and then we shall push and we involve in Parliament, mostly the chairperson of Kosase, so that they can also involve in this case, and even other related agencies. We shall involve in the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, because you said you reported it to them, so which means they are aware of what is happening in Uiri.
Mr. Moderator, the president of this country does not love corruption.
You already said that.
Now, if the corrupt people are using government money to make sure that the information does not go to government agencies, and this information I'm giving out does not reach to him, then he will still think that everything is normal.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. When actually things are very abnormal. We are going into dog. We need to wake up as Ugandans to fight corruption.
And actually, we need more whistleblowers. Whoever is there, you come out and you speak. You'll be intimidated, you'll be threatened, but at the end of the day, you'll save the country. You'll be the hero of this country.
Ugandans, this is the suspension letter they have given me because I have been able to whistleblow the high level of resource management at Uganda Industrial Research Institute. And this is what we are going through in Uganda, as long as we don't come out to fight for our rights. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is TV10 Gano Mazima TMC Media Group. Katumba Gerard. I'll see you next time. Let's make a follow-up for this matter. Thank you. Webale kutugoberera wano ku TV10 Gano Mazima TMC Media Group. Osobola okusigala ng'otambula naffe ku mikutu egy'enjawulo. Website yaffe www.tv10ganomazima.news ne ku YouTube channel yaffe TV10 Gano Mazima. Nze muzzukulu wa Mugema Katumba Gerard.
TV10 Gano Mazima.